Okay, the reading for this week is the next part in our series on Chinese classical civilization, culture, philosophy, religion, and so forth. Today we will be reading excerpts from the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch by a Buddhist priest named Huineng, and I'll put a link to more information about Huineng along with his kanji in the description below. And he lived during the early part of the Tang Dynasty. If you haven't memorized the dates of the major Chinese dynasties in Chinese history, go back and review those and memorize them now. And today we will be dealing with the Tang Dynasty. So Huineng was the sixth patriarch of the Chan. Remember, the Chan in Japanese is Zen. Chan, school of Buddhism. Shang, school of Buddhism. Like all schools of Buddhism, the Chan, or Zen school, taught that all sentient beings have the Buddha nature within them, and that enlightenment is achieved by truly recognizing one's own true nature, i.e. the Buddha nature of being enlightened. The Chan school taught that enlightenment comes suddenly, in a flash of spiritual insight. In Japanese, satori is the word that's often used. The Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch purports to be a record of the teachings of Huineng, as transcribed by an obscure disciple named Fa Hai. Given the fragmentary and disputed nature of texts from this period, it cannot be regarded as an accurate statement of actual events. It is, however, an excellent representative statement of the Chan school of Buddhism. Okay, so in class we'll discuss more about Chan Buddhism, when and how it made its way to Japan and became Zen Buddhism, and its two major schools of Rinzai and Soto, how it split into those two factions. They both have their roots in China, but we'll discuss all those details about Zen Buddhism, Chan Buddhism later in class. Today I just want to read the excerpts from this Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. As always, there is a longer version and a shorter version on your worksheet that you have. I will read the longer version here, and once again, it is taken from Sources of Chinese Tradition, compiled by William Theodore de Barry and Irene Bloom, Volume 1. I'll put the link to that book below in the description. Alright, before I read the rather long excerpt this time, 5 pages or so, it's going to take a while to get through the whole thing, let me read these questions on the study guide here. Okay, question number 1. Liang is a term for the southern part of China, the area of modern Guangdong and Guangxi provinces. Huineng had left his home there to seek instruction with Huineng at Huangmei Temple in present-day Hubei province in central China, which is well to the north of Liang. What stereotypes about the south does Hongren's comment reveal? Okay, so keep in mind that the center of China, or the main sort of imperial center in the Tang Dynasty, was further up in the north, and they kind of looked down at the people of the south as country bumpkins and so forth, I think, is what they're getting at with this question. We'll discuss more after we read the excerpts from this essay. What stereotypes about the south does Hongren's comments reveal? How does Huineng respond to these stereotypes? On what concept does Huineng's response rest? Okay, we'll discuss that in class. Question number 2. What does the monk Shang Xiu's 4-line poem, the first of the two quoted above in the excerpt, indicate about the search for enlightenment? Okay, we'll get to that when after we read the 4-line poem that's included in this essay. What does it suggest about the search for enlightenment? What practices might one undertake to achieve enlightenment if one accepted this poem? Okay, we'll talk about the poem later in class. Question 3. What does Huineng's 4-line poem indicate about the search for enlightenment? What practices might one undertake to achieve enlightenment if one accepted this poem? Okay, there's 2 poems quoted in the essay, and they have different ideas about enlightenment. We'll discuss that in class. Okay, here's the essay, 5 pages in all. Excerpts from the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. And this is section 3 of that sutra. The monk Hongren asked me, "Where are you from that you come to this mountain to make obeisance to me?" Obeisance to me. Obeisance. Hold on, I lost my place here. lost their place there. Once more. Section 3. The monk Hongren asked me, "Where are you from that you come to this mountain to make obeisance to me? Just what is it that you are looking for from me?" I replied, I replied, "I am from Lingnan, a commoner from Xinzhou. I have come this long distance only to make obeisance to you. I am seeking no particular thing, but only the Buddha Dharma." The Buddha Dharma. Dharma, of course, is fa. In Chinese, it's the word for the law, the Buddhist law. I'm seeking no particular thing, but only the Buddha Dharma, the Buddhist law. The master then reproved me. So the master Hongren then reproved me, saying, so notice that it's written in the first person here. The master then reproved me, saying, "If you're from Lingnang, then you're a barbarian. How can you become a Buddha?" So already we see that this Hongren from the north looks down on Huineng, because he is from the south. "How can you become a Buddha?" I replied, "Although people from the south and people from the north differ, there is no north and the south in Buddha nature." So again, as is common in Buddhism, all apparent dichotomies or binaries are actually mere illusions, and north and south are no exception. He is saying there's no north and no south in Buddha nature. Although my barbarian's body and your body are not the same, what difference is there in our Buddha nature? All Buddha nature is one. The master wished to continue the discussion with me. However, seeing that there were other people nearby, he said no more. Then he sent me to work together with the assembly. Later, a lay disciple had me go to the threshing room, where I spent over 8 months treading the pestle. Section 4. Unexpectedly, one day the 5th Patriarch called all his disciples to come, and when they had assembled, he said, "Let me preach to you. For people in this world, birth and death are vital matters. You disciples make offering all day long, and seek only the field of blessings, but you do not seek to escape from the bitter sea of birth and death." So the bitter sea of the bitter cycle of samsara, rinne in Japanese, the sea of birth and death. Your own self-nature obscures the gateway to blessings. How can you be saved? All of you return to your rooms and look into yourselves. Men of wisdom will of themselves grasp the original nature of their prajna, intuition. Prajna, you will remember, is the Sanskrit word for chie in Japanese, so wisdom or correct action, it also implies. Of their prajna, intuition, their chie, intuition. Each of you write a verse and bring it to me. I will read your verses, and if there is one who has awakened to the cardinal meaning, I will give him the robe and the dharma, and make him the 6th Patriarch. Hurry, hurry. Section 5. The disciples received his instructions and returned each to his own room. They talked it over among themselves, saying, "There's no point in our purifying our minds and making efforts to compose a verse to present to the priest. Shen Xiu, the head monk, is our teacher. After he obtains the Dharma, we can rely on him, so let's not compose verses." They all then gave up trying and did not have the courage to present a verse. At that time there was a 3-sectioned corridor in front of the master's hall. On the walls were to be painted pictures of stories from the Lankavatara Sutra, together with a picture in commemoration of the 5th Patriarch transmitting the robe and dharma in order to disseminate them to later generations. The artist, Liu Jian, had examined the walls and was to start work the next day. Section 6. The head monk, Shen Xiu, thought, "The others won't present a mind verse. How can the 5th Patriarch estimate the degree of understanding within my mind? If I offer my mind verse to the 5th Patriarch with the intention of gaining patriarchship, then it cannot be justified. Then it would be like a common man usurping the saintly position. But if I don't offer my mind, then I cannot learn the Dharma, the Buddhist law, the Fa." For a long time he thought about it and was very much perplexed. At midnight, without letting anyone see him, he went to write his mind verse on the central section of the south corridor wall, hoping to gain the Dharma. If the fifth patriarch sees my verse tomorrow and is pleased with it, then I shall come forward and say that I wrote it. If he tells me that it is not worthwhile, then I will know that there is a weighty obstacle in my past karma, and I cannot gain the Dharma and shall have to give it up. The Honorable Patriarch's intention is difficult to fathom. There's a note about that. There's a gap in the Dunhuang text at this point, and the missing passage has been supplied from the Northern Song version, the Ko Shoji text, as we say in Japanese. Alright, and it's difficult to fathom. Then the head monk, Shen Xiao, at midnight, holding a candle, wrote a verse on the wall of the central section of the south corridor, without anyone else knowing about it. The verse read, so here's the first poem, the first verse that is mentioned in the study guide questions. We'll discuss its meaning later in class, and here's the verse. The body is the bodhi tree, bodhi. The Sanskrit word bodhi means enlightenment, right? The body of bodhisattva, bosatsu. The body is the bodhi tree, the enlightenment tree. The mind is like a clear mirror. So the mind as a mirror is a kind of motif that you see, a recurring symbol or motif that you see in Buddhist literature and Buddhist sutras quite often. So the body is like an enlightenment tree. The mind is like a clear mirror. At all times we must strive to polish it and must not let the dust collect. All right, dust, underline dust. Dust, of course, in Buddhist thought is a symbol for the dust of this world, the things of this world, the attachments and so forth. Section 7. After he had finished writing this verse, the head monk, Shen Xiao, returned to his room and lay down. No one had seen him. At dawn, the fifth patriarch called the painter Liu to draw illustrations from the Lankavatara Sutra on the south corridor. The fifth patriarch suddenly saw this verse and, having read it, said to the painter, "I will give you 30,000 cash. You have come a long distance to do this arduous work, but I have decided not to have the pictures painted after all. It is said in the Diamond Sutra," so the underlined Diamond Sutra, I've read parts of the Diamond Sutra for a previous video, you can review it there. It is said in the Diamond Sutra, all forms everywhere are unreal and false. Right. Forms is shiki, the kanji shiki, or iro. Colors is, in Buddhist context, often means forms. So all forms everywhere are unreal and false. It would be best to leave this verse here and to have the deluded ones recite it. If they practice in accordance with it, they will not fall into the three evil ways. Those who practice by it will gain great benefit. The master then called all his disciples to come and burned incense before the verse. The disciples came in to see and were all filled with admiration. The fifth patriarch said, "You should all recite this verse so that you will be able to see into your own natures. With this practice, you will not fall into the three evil ways." Underline three evil ways, and we'll discuss that in class. The Sang Doku, I think it is in Japanese, the three poisons, the three evil ways. It might be Sang Aku, we'll have to check that, the kanji later, for the three evil ways. Continuing, the disciples all recited it, and feeling great admiration, cried out, "How excellent!" The fifth patriarch then called the head monk, Shen Xiao, inside the hall and asked, "Did you write this verse or not? If you wrote it, you are qualified to attain my Dharma." Right, it says here in the note that this section of the text is corrupt. We'll have to look into that some more later. The head monk, Shen Xiao, said, "I am ashamed to say that I actually did write the verse, but I do not dare to seek the patriarchship. I beg you to be so compassionate as to tell me whether I have even a small amount of wisdom and discernment of the cardinal meaning or not." The fifth patriarch responded to him, saying, "This verse you wrote shows that you still have not reached true understanding, true prajna, true wisdom. You have merely reached the front of the gate, but have yet to be able to enter it. If common people practice according to your verse, they will not fall. But in seeking the ultimate enlightenment, the bodhi, ultimate enlightenment, one will not seek with such an understanding. You must enter the gate and see your own original nature. Go and think about it for a day or two, and then make another verse and present it to me. If you have been able to enter the gate and see your own original nature, then I will give you the robe and the Dharma. The head monk, Shen Xiao, left, but after several days, he was still unable to write a verse. Okay, so his verse was good, but it wasn't enough, is what the master is telling him here. And let's just review his verse once more. The body is the Bodhi tree. The body is the ultimate enlightenment tree. The mind is like a clear mirror. At all times we must strive to polish it, and must not let the dust collect. Polish it, meaning polish the mirror, of course. Polish the mind, so that the dust of this world, the desires and the passions and so forth, do not collect on the mirror. Now, section 8. One day an acolyte passed by the threshing room reciting this verse. As soon as I heard it, I knew that the person who had written it had yet to know his own nature and to discern the cardinal meaning. I asked the boy, "What's the name of this verse you were reciting just now?" The boy answered me, saying, "Don't you know? The master said that birth and death are vital matters, and he told his disciples each to write a verse if they wanted to inherit the robe and the Dharma, and to bring it for him to see. He who was awakened to the cardinal meaning would be given the robe and the Dharma and be made the 6th Patriarch. There is a head monk by the name of Shen Xiao who happened to write a verse on formlessness, on mushki, wu si, mushki, on the wall of the south corridor. The 5th Patriarch had all the disciples read the verse, saying that those who awakened to it would see into their own self-natures, and that those who practiced according to it would attain emancipation from the cycle of samsara, of birth and rebirth. Gedatsu, we say in Japanese. To exit the cycle is to gedatsu. I said, "I've been treading the pestle for 8 months, but haven't been to the hall yet. I beg you to take me to the south corridor so that I can see the verse and make obeisance to it. I also want to recite it so that I can establish a causation for my next birth and be born in a Buddha land." The boy took me to the south corridor, and I made obeisance before the verse. Because I was uneducated, I asked someone to read it to me. As soon as I heard it, I understood the cardinal meaning. I made a verse and asked someone who was able to write it to put it on the wall of the west corridor, so that I might offer my own original mind. Benxing, original mind. If you do not know the original mind, the Benxing, studying the Dharma is to no avail. If you know the mind and see its true nature, you then awaken to the cardinal meaning. My verse said, so this is the next poem, the next verse that is referenced in the study questions. The Bodhi tree is originally not a tree. The mirror also has no stand. Buddha nature is always clean and pure. Where is there room for dust? So this is the second poem, and it's regarded as superior to the first. It shows a higher level of awareness. Continuing the poem, another verse said, another poem said, "The mind is the Bodhi tree." So it's reversing it. Before the body was the Bodhi tree, here the mind is the Bodhi tree. The body is the mirror stand. The mirror is originally clean and pure. Where can it be stained by dust? The followers in the temple were all amazed when they saw my verse. Then I returned to the threshing room. The 5th Patriarch realized that I had a splendid understanding of the cardinal meaning. Being afraid lest the assembly know this, he said to them, "This is still not complete attainment." Okay, so he's made improvements, but he's still not there. He still hasn't achieved complete enlightenment yet. Okay, so these 3 poems form the sort of core of this platform sutra of the 6th Patriarch. We'll discuss these sections, focusing especially on the 3 poems that are put forth and the meanings and significance of those poems in the context of Chinese Chan Buddhism or Zen Buddhism. Alright, that is all for now. We'll discuss more in class later. Goodbye.